Sometimes the most powerful wisdom doesn't come from some fancy book or a big lecture. Nope. Sometimes it comes from the quiet observations of someone who just gets people. We're going to dive into a really simple, but honestly, a really powerful way to think about authenticity, all passed down from a father to his daughter. And it all starts with one tiny but crucial shift, from I to we.
Imagine for a second that you had a quiet superpower, the ability to just understand what someone is all about just by paying attention. Well, that was the gift of a man named Joe McRee, and his insight, it's the foundation for everything we're about to unpack.
So who was this guy, Joe McRee? Well, he wasn't a famous psychologist or a motivational speaker. According to his daughter, he was just a simple but incredibly powerful man whose wisdom came from a lifetime of just watching people, carefully and without any judgment.
What's so fascinating is how all these pieces fit together. He wasn't some loud, imposing figure. It was the opposite. It was his softness, his ability to kind of go with the flow that let him see what everyone else was missing. He could read a room so well because he wasn't trying to be the center of it. He was just observing, just understanding.
So all this keen observation led him to create a sort of shorthand, a set of really memorable family nicknames for certain behaviors he saw over and over again. And this, right here, is where his simple wisdom becomes a really practical tool for, well, all of us.
First up, we've got the I am. Come on, we've all met this person, right? It's the person whose absolute favorite topic is themselves. Their conversations are just this endless loop of I did this, I think that, me, me, me. In Joe's world, they were quite simply a big I am.
And then there's the PB, as in Phony Bologna. This is the person who talks a great game. They make all the big promises, but when it's actually time to do something, there's a total disconnect. The walk just doesn't match the talk.
So let's just put them side by side. On one side, you have the I am, who's completely absorbed in their own world, and on the other, you have the Phony Bologna, whose words and actions just do not line up. Two super simple labels for two very, very common behaviors. Now, it is so easy to take these labels and start sticking them on people, right? But the real power of Joe McRee's wisdom isn't about judging everybody else. It's about what happens when we take this whole framework and turn it on ourselves.
His knack for sniffing things out was a genuine superpower for figuring out who was authentic and who was just putting on a show. But the real game changer comes when we stop aiming that superpower outwards. And this is the question that turns his wisdom into a real tool for growth. What happens when we stop looking around the room for the I am and ask ourselves, wait a minute, is it me? And that brings us to this little self-awareness check. It's about just pausing and asking, am I dominating this conversation? Have I even asked the other person about their day? And look, the goal isn't to be perfect. The source is super clear about that. The real win is just catching yourself in the act. That awareness, that's step one. That's everything. Okay, so once you have that awareness, once you can catch yourself, the next step is to actually do something about it, to actively shift your behavior. This is how we move from just noticing things to creating real, authentic connections. And here's the mission, plain and simple. It's to consciously stop that I, me train of thought and turn it into we, you. It's about intentionally shifting your focus away from yourself and towards the people you're with. So how does this actually become a habit? It's a simple three-step process. First, you recognize the I am moment as it's happening. Second, you reframe the conversation. Even just saying, hey, enough about me, how have you been? That can change the entire dynamic. And finally, you repeat. You just keep doing it. You practice this conscious shift until it's not a shift anymore. It's just you, your authentic self. And look, this is way more than just a communication trick. It's about honoring this legacy of insight by actively working to become the absolute best and most authentic version of yourself. You see, Joe McRee wasn't just spotting the negative traits. He was also really good at spotting the positive ones. He admired authenticity. He valued solid, caring people. So by working to be less of an I am, we're really working to become the kind of person he would have recognized as the real deal. And that is the ultimate takeaway here. This whole framework, it's not a weapon for you to judge your friends or your colleagues. It's a mirror. It's a personal tool for you to improve, to transform, and to build way more meaningful connections with the people in your life.
So it all kind of boils down to this one powerful question from the source material. When you walk into a room, when you start a conversation, how do you show up? Are you leading with I,
Or are you leading with we?
And that leaves us with one last big question. If he were here right now, just quietly observing, what would he see? Would he see an I am, or a phony baloney? Or would he see what he valued most of all, an authentic, solid person who truly cares about other people? It's something for all of us to think about.